Dillon was never a primetime back in Green Bay, and for the games he did start, he was mostly inconsistent. Dillon totaled just 12 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 seasons, averaging under 4 yards per carry during that time. But for what is left in the pool of free agents, Dillon might be the one that makes the most sense. It was always expected that Dan Quinn would make a major splash in free agency. The Washington Commanders entered the legal tampering period with over $90 million in cap space and myriad roster holes. Things didn't get off to a roaring start for the former Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. Quinn took some heat for the contracts he gave out to former Cowboys. First, defensive lineman Dorance Armstrong signed a 3-year, $33 million deal with a max value of $45 million. The guarantees are unclear, but that is extremely rich for the underrated Armstrong. Then Quinn turned around and signed Tyler. I'm just going to call him Tyler B because I keep forgetting how to say his name, to a 3-year, $30 million contract. His $10 million salary currently ranks 7th among centers. That's a steep price to pay for a middling pass protector and run blocker. Both deals could blow up in Quinn's face, but the newly minted Commanders head coach has since redeemed himself with a signing that will irk Cowboy fans. Late Wednesday, Quinn landed longtime Cowboys free agent target Bobby Wagner in the form of a 1-year, $8.5 million contract. So let's get this straight. Wagner has been available in free agency 3 years in a row. Quinn was Dallas's defensive coordinator all 3 years. Given Quinn's history with Wagner, he coached Wagner in Seattle over 10 years ago, and the Cowboys' need for a linebacker, Wagner somewhat exhaustingly was linked with a move to Dallas in each of the last 2 seasons. The first year Quinn is not in Dallas, he splashes on Wagner. The timing is certainly interesting and opens the door for speculation. Wagner is past his prime, but this is a quality signing for the Commanders, who also inked Frankie Luvu to a 3-year contract on the first day of free agency. He logged 20 pressures and 7 sacks to go with 125 tackles last season. He and Wagner form an intimidating linebacker duo for Quinn's defense. How ironic that Quinn values the linebacker position the second he leaves Dallas, right? Granted, the Cowboys' linebacker personnel was doomed once VANDER was lost for the season with a neck injury. That wasn't Quinn's fault. Furthermore, Quinn likely didn't have the freedom in Dallas as he does under new ownership in Washington to invest over $40 million into the linebacker position. Our anger is directed more at Jerry and Stephen Jones than Quinn, but the former Cowboys defensive coordinator isn't blameless. Quinn had some level of influence in Dallas personnel decisions, including drafting Mazi Smith in the 1st round last year and trading up to select Eric Scott Jr. in the 6th round. The Cowboys made several internal and external defensive signings during Quinn's tenure, including VANDER, Dorance Armstrong, Malik Hooker, Dante Fowler, and Carlos Watkins. Only one linebacker stands among that group. Quinn is credited with transforming the Cowboys' safety room, an overall play of the defense, and rightfully so, but linebacker was a point of weakness throughout his time as defensive coordinator, and hardly any resources were spent to improve the personnel. Maybe the front office prohibited Quinn from spending big on a linebacker, but it's certainly an odd coincidence that he splurged on Wagner when the opportunity was there to do the same in Dallas in 21 and 2022. Like we said, infuriating. Now on to our next topic. 3 free agent running backs the Cowboys should sign instead of Ezekiel Elliott. The Dallas Cowboys have been relatively quiet during free agency. After not making a single move until day three, many hounded them for not attacking this intriguing running back market. The free agent running back class might be one of the best in years. With most now having found their new homes, teams like Dallas are looking to pick up what is left. The only real leftover name that has been linked to the Cowboys is former running back Ezekiel Elliott. Elliott is the ground and pound runner this offense is looking for, but a reunion wouldn't be in Dallas's best interest. While we wouldn't turn our nose up at Elliott returning, there are other running backs available that would make a lot more sense than the 2-time rushing champ. And these are some of the names that spring to mind in that regard. So starting off at number 3, Damien Harris. If saving money is really what's all in means to Jerry Jones, then Dallas's cheapest option to adding depth at running back is signing Damien Harris. Harris, now 27, is a quality bruiser, and his disciplined running style is attractive. Though he did not play much in 2023, Harris can still come in and give the Cowboys depth. Harris's small sample size over the last few years and his quiet stint in Buffalo make him fairly cheap at the moment, which Dallas will like. The Cowboys love going after veteran running backs to add depth, guys like Ronald Jones and Darren McFadden. If you want to think back even further, were both brought in at fairly cheap rates to add depth. Dallas could go this route again by signing Harris. Regardless of how well Harris would perform for them, getting him at such a small price makes this a fair move. Number 2, J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins at 25 has the dreaded injury-prone tag following him. He has shown flashes to be a solid running back in his days, but multiple season-ending injuries the last 2 seasons will scare teams away from doing business. This scare can work in Dallas' favor, however, because Dobbins could now be signed to an extremely cheap deal. Dobbins' future contract will likely be in the $2 million per year range, which mirrors his market value on SpotTrack. From a skilled perspective, Dobbins can come in and give Dallas the type of running that they are looking for. He can bounce off wimpy tacklers and has a great one-cut-and-go running style. Dobbins is simply looking for an opportunity to prove that he can be that guy for a team. It seems like ex-Cowboy greats are also on board with this possible move. He is still young and could mold into the runner he once showed signs of. A Dobbins-Dallas connection could work as Dobbins gets a chance to revive his career, and Dallas adds starting caliber talent at a considerably low price. And at number 1, A.J. Dillon. The 28-year-old Dillon has played his entire career until this point with the Green Bay Packers, primarily as a handcuff to Aaron Jones. Dillon was never a primetime back in Green Bay, and for the games he did start, he was mostly inconsistent. Dillon totaled just 12 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 seasons, averaging under 4 yards per carry during that time. But for what is left in the pool of free agents, Dillon might be the one that makes the most sense. Dillon can be the Cowboys' power back and would easily buy into Mike McCarthy's chunk play preferred running scheme. This style of running is what Dallas is looking for going into 2024. Dillon also has above receiving ability and superb ball security to go along with being a strong blocker. What makes this even more likely is that Dillon's market value at $3.5 million. The price is just under the amount they were reportedly shy to pay Zach Moss. So Dallas might bend the purse strings. Dillon has been linked to Dallas more so than anyone mentioned, so he's a name to follow in the coming days. It seems like the Cowboys are not shopping in the exclusive aisle anymore, but they're not shopping in the lost and found aisle either. They are simply looking for a cheap contributor who can come in, add depth, and produce at a fair level. Luckily for them, there are still a handful that can meet their needs. Next up, the Cowboys made one big splash during free agency. The Cowboys signed linebacker Eric Kendricks, but could that be a sign for Leighton Vander Esch's retirement? The signing of veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks sent a delightful shockwave throughout a desperate Dallas Cowboys fan base on Wednesday night. But while Kendricks brings some unique experience to the group, he also seems to fill the same space on the roster as Leighton Vander Esch. This move would seem to validate at least partially previous rumors that Vander Esch won't be with Dallas next season due to his ongoing neck issues. After 2 relatively healthy seasons from 2021 to 2022, Vander Esch's injury woes returned last year, as he only played in 5 games. He's worn a neck brace since college, and that condition came up in his second NFL season, both costing him games and affecting his play when he was on the field. Even in 2022, he missed 4 games with a neck stinger, and obviously was much worse last season. There was talks last year when Vander Esch went to injury reserve that it could be a career-threatening situation. Then last month, while giving updates on some injured players, Cowboys executive Stephen Jones had plenty to share about the progress of Trayvon Diggs, DeMarvion Overshawn, but got tightly lipped quickly when asked about Vander Esch. Either it's still a big unknown, or there's an announcement that they're just waiting to make. Signing Kendricks doesn't necessarily mean Vander Esch is gone. The Cowboys' linebacker room needed more bodies, especially if new defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer isn't going to use the safeties the way Dan Quinn did. And with Vander Esch only counting $4.4 million against the 2024 cap, plus Overshawn and Damone Clark still being on rookie deals, the overhead at linebacker is small enough that Kendricks could be added without any subtractions. Plus, Kendricks' experience with Zimmer from Minnesota could make him a valuable transition aid to the new scheme for everyone, including Vander Esch. Still, Kendricks' on-field role in Dallas will be what Vander Esch has done the last few years as a primary run stopper. He's also likely to be the green dot player, receiving calls from the coaches and relaying them to the rest of the defense. which VANDER did for Quinn. It would be unorthodox to go from a 28-year-old to a 32-year-old as the leader in your linebacker room, unless you don't think the younger guy is going to be available. Even if VANDER doesn't retire, the Cowboys may not want to carry the risk any longer. They can get back $2.15 million in cap space if he's released. They get the same amount back if he announces his retirement, having just 1 year left on his current contract. It won't matter if it happens now or after June 1st. But if Dallas intends to release them, they'd have probably done it before free agency opened. This feels more like they're giving a 6-year veteran time to work out the process with his doctors, agent, family, whoever else before he makes a much bigger decision. It's one thing to let a guy go find work elsewhere. It's another when he's probably played his last snap. That seems to be where this is heading. Again, Eric Kendricks would be a welcome addition whether VANDER stays or goes. But that Dallas makes this move, given their inactivity elsewhere on the roster, speaks to how concerned they are with their linebacker position. Talk that VANDER is going to retire was already out there, so adding Kendricks would seem to lend more credence to that rumor. And of course, our next topic, CeeDee Lamb may be the top priority for extensions for the Cowboys this offseason. There are a number of things that the Dallas Cowboys have to tend to this offseason. Among the most pressing matters needing attention are the extensions for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. It remains to be seen whether or not all, or any really of them, will receive extensions from the team, as each of them is in a bit of their own unique box. Prescott is entering the final year of his current contract with the team and cannot be traded or have the franchise tag placed upon him next offseason. The grains of sand are getting thin in the hourglass. Lamb is also entering the final year of his contract with the Cowboys and is coming off of the most impressive statistical season that any wide receiver has ever had in franchise history. Unlike his quarterback, Lamb is at the negotiating table for the first time with the Cowboys, which separates his situation just a bit. Parsons is also able to talk cheese for the first time in his career, but as a first-round draft pick in 2021, he's only entering his 4th year with the club and has an option year left before things get as scary. He could always choose to force the issue by holding out, but the main point is that Dallas has the most time of team control left with him relative to the others. The Cowboys may not wind up negotiating extensions with everyone on this list, but once they do get working, it stands to reason that CeeDee Lamb will be the first phone number they dial. At first glance, you may wonder why Lamb would be the priority given the importance of the quarterback position. While we do know whether or not Dallas will land deals with everyone, it is worth pointing out that context of everything involved. The wide receiver market has the potential to change the most in the short term, with Justin Jefferson wanting a new deal from the Vikings and Jamar Chase wanting his own from the Cincinnati Bengals. Dallas has those two to beat in terms of market rate. While rushing to beat the market has rarely been a strategy at Dallas with long-term extensions, they do not have the same heat on them relative to the quarterback position this specific offseason. A year ago saw the position skyrocket after the deals for Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and eventually Joe Burrow. This offseason only features Trevor Lawrence and Tua as far as notable quarterbacks that are in line for paydays. Whoever gets an extension and whenever it happens, it would behoove the Cowboys to do something at literally any point in the near future, given their extreme inactivity to this point. Consider that everybody in the NFL beat them to landing an external free agent the second time in 3 years that this has been the case. Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts on today's topics. Let us know how you think the Cowboys are doing this offseason. And of course, give us a thumbs up if you like our video. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Just search The Big D Breakdown. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.